Good morning, guys. Back on the Cincinnati Toolmaster 1D head this morning. Everything's buttoned up and working really good up in here, and the spindle and everything sounds good. I noticed a few little seeping oil drips here. I got time, come on up, go ahead and fix it. In the video prior to this one, I showed you the inner workings of one of these. So today I'm going to drain the box, take off this handle, and this shaft, and pull the front face off so I can get in there and replace the O-rings that are suspected of leaking all over the place. Don saw it and thought, oil, we're going to be rich. No, Don. It's not bad. Heck of a lot less than most machines I run into. But I got the time, I got some O-rings, and heck, the new owner will be grateful. So here we go. On the bottom of this mill right here, on this gearbox, there's a set screw drain plug. Right now, and oh, I don't know my own strength. There we go. Put a little Teflon tape around it when I put it in there. Little tip. Keep your bolt pressure pushed up, or keep your pressure pushed up until you're ready to drop it out of the way. I love these little T-handle wrenches right here. Best set I ever bought, made by Paramount, USA. Sometimes you can't get into places, so you got to go back to the regular ones. I have my handy dandy assorted collection here. If you watched the last video, Don and I kind of went over how this selector knob works. You hear it clicking? It's got two springs and two balls that go into detents around this plate. Well, I'm going to take this whole section and it should just pull right out. Now I'm going to take off the front handle. When you're doing stuff like this, you might as well go and do the whole thing. That way you don't have problems. Now this wheel has got a through, it's got a shaft coming through the wheel, the hub of the wheel. It's got a cross-drilled hole, and in this case they used a spring pin. They didn't use a tapered pin. A lot of these old machines have got tapered pin, and the way you tell is when you look at the different holes, one will be smaller than the other. Not by much, but enough to where if you try to drive it the wrong way, you're going to have a hard time. But this one just uses a regular spring pin. Buy yourself a wide assortment of these things here. These little punches. I must have 50 of them, and this is the only one that'll fit that hole right. Driving that pin on out. And there she is. This little, there you go. Little spring pin, spring roll pin. What that means is it's a pin that is made from a sheet and rolled, and it has a spring to it. So when you drive it in, it automatically keeps pressure pushing out so it doesn't fall out. In the old days, everything was taper pins. Well, now we have that. Now this shaft sticks a little bit proud. It's tight. What I'm going to do is pull it with my hand like this way, and we're going to tap it. See if it shocks loose. Got a lot of pressure. And we have movement. Problem is now it's all flush. There's no way for me to get a gear puller in here and pull it off. I really don't want to take like a wedge and put behind it unless I have to, because it's got this nice, I don't know if that's aluminum or not, but it's got a nice dial you can set. Tell you what, I'm going to give it a little more shot. I don't know if it's a straight shaft or tapered shaft, but I don't want to beat over the edges of the shaft where it won't come through the hole. So I'm going to very gently take this ball peen hammer and see if my aim is still good enough to hit that in the center. You know, I did pretty good. Then I hit out here and it drove it back on in. I'm wondering if a few light taps and there we go. Don't hit it so hard you break this, else you'll be tigging it up. There we go. I think the initial hit loosened it up. There we go. Close up of the wheel. There's cross bore so that it'll go through that. Go. See if we can clean this thing up while we got it off. Then this has got when you run into something like that just happened here, and I don't know if you can see real well. When you run into one of these things that don't want to come off your shaft, it's usually because of crud. So first thing I'm going to do is wipe it with a towel and see if I can see any damage. You don't always want to force these things, okay guys? You force it, you just make more trouble for yourself. Now I'm going to take a little wire brush on a Dremel tool here and go around that and clean that shaft up some. That worked well, but still need to do a little more work to it. Now you could take a file. What's happening is it's hanging up where the cross-drilled hole is here, around the edges of the hole. So I'm going to just take a little stone and gently go over that hole on either side. You can use a file. You can use some sandpaper. Use a sharpened spoon. Somebody's been messing with this thing. Don't know if I can get you in close enough to see. I talk a lot about being a detective. If you notice, this hole I doubt came from the factory. It's got two holes. They drilled it at a wrong angle. And they may have drilled that pin out and messed it up, not knowing what they were doing. Anyway, I see that a lot on tapered pins that have been cross-drilled. People didn't know what they were doing. They end up drilling the pin out and they get off a little bit. And you have two holes on one end. But the handle didn't show any signs of that. All right, let's clean it off. Let's even cheat a little bit and put a little degreaser on there. Let's see. Well, we're halfway off now. We're over that hole. And some pressure takes it all the way off. Now we're into a place that I thought it may have been leaking, but by looking here, this is just bone dry. That seal there is not leaking. It's not an O-ring, it's like a formed plastic seal. As you can see, we've got 4 bolts right here that hold this plate on. I see oil in a line right here. Now I don't know if they've even got a seal between this and the casting. But I need to take this shaft out. This shaft starts here and goes all the way over here. And I suspect it's leaking a little bit around the O-ring on this side. And I doubt if it's leaking there, but we'll look. Right one? Oh, look at this. By taking this off, I can see into that unit. Did I ever tell you how much I like these Paramount? I got a set metric in these, and they're heavy. They just feel good in your hand, you know. Oh, the people have been asking about my little boo-boo. It's been there quite a while, and it's probably mainly my fault. I was in a hurry, and I grabbed an old welding helmet out of the trailer, and I put it on, and that band was sharp, and it just skinned my skin right there. And on your forehead, your skin's very, very, very thin. As you get older, it gets thinner even. It's also very vascular. So it's just a hard place for me to heal, because I frankly took all the skin off, and I should have went and got a skin graft. But my mother-in-law, when she was living with me, had a wound on her ankle that she lived with in severe pain. And we went to the hospital. I took her to the hospital when she came to live with me. And because of insurance reasons, they didn't use the best treatment until they tried all the other crappy treatments. Put that woman through so much pain for 6 weeks. I was should have sent Don over there. He would have shown what was going on. All right. Now, I got my bucket here, and when I knock this off, I guarantee you we're probably going to get some oil leaking. But now, this has always been my favorite little hammer for this kind of work. Tap a little bit here. You don't want to have to make a new plate, so do it easy. In fact, I'm going to hit it harder, but I'm going to use a piece of wood to soften the blow. If I can find a piece of wood. Got a different way right now. Brass. Brass is your friend. It's heavy, got a lot of mass. It doesn't mess up things. See, that's loose now. Now, if you watched the other video, you saw how the plate just has this shaft going through it and two locating pins. I think one's here and one's here. Now that I've got that, I can get a prying lever behind it. Like these prying levers. It was just at hand. Okay. I don't see a whole bunch of oil coming out just yet. There's a little bit. Alright, I don't want to mess this seal up, so I'm going to change tools. These are prying tools. You can buy them in a little kit. And they usually have like 4 in that kit. Buy 2 kits because a lot of things like this you want to do from 2 sides. All right. We are, and it did have a seal. That's the back side. 1 seal, 1 back side. A little sludge in the bottom. Because there's some sludge in the bottom of this oil, I'm not going to reuse it. Oil's relatively cheap, guys. And the oil that goes in here may never get changed for another 100 years. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to flush out the inside of this. And I found this about a year ago. Now, this isn't a commercial. They don't pay me for any of this, and I don't know if I would want to get paid, because then I can't tell you what I really think about it. Well, I could, but then I wouldn't get paid, so what's the use of it? So I'm just going to take and real quick put some of this in here and flush these gears. Oh, I need a bigger bucket. And now I was very fortunate when I bought this. I needed some varied discs and all kinds of stuff in it. I was very fortunate to find a complete head gearbox here. So I know exactly what's in there. These go right here. This is a shifting fork. Basically, it has 2 little prongs on here that fit inside here like this. and this moves that dog gear to change the direction of travel, up and down. So if you push it like that, that goes up. If you push it down here, the bottom gears are engaged. Well, that's all that right in there. It looks in good shape. I don't see any teeth that are super excessively worn. And in fact, if they ever were broken, here's a whole nother set of gears right there. I'm selling this machine and all this stuff will come with it. Now, this is the shaft in question. I know that behind here is an O-ring. I don't think that one's bad. But there's also one right over here in this boss that is bad. But to get into there, I need to move this whole shaft out. And I don't think that's going to be too hard. This shaft, I don't feel any wear. That'd be great. Otherwise, we'd have to take it out, either put a sleeve on it or weld it back up and then grind it back down to the tolerances we need. But I don't think we're going to need to do that. All right, now we need to take this handle off. Now, this handle has 4 holes in it. Which one do you use? This one, when I first looked at it, I thought, hey, that's an Allen head set screw. Take that and the handle will come right off. Well, it's not. When I took my pick and I started going through there, I see that this is a center that was put into the shaft so they could grind it. And if you look closely under the paint, I found another hole back here, and another hole up here, and another hole up here. Now, what the heck are the holes for? This is a handle off the other unit. If you look at this hole, it's threaded. So that's got to be a set screw in there. You look at this hole, it goes all the way through to the other side, and I suspect there's a pin. So, the first thing I'm going to do is see if in fact this is threaded on this model, and see if I can pick out that hole enough to get an Allen wrench in. Close. Aha! One of the best things about these things is none of it's metric. And that was in fact an Allen set screw. We're going to back that off. I don't really understand why they need an Allen set screw and a cross pin. It's interesting to me when you look at the different kind of fasteners that are on here. You have socket head cap screws. Well, where are you? You have socket head cap screws here, or I guess you'd call those button screws. Then you have straight machine screws, straight head, slot head machine screws. Why didn't they use the same button heads all the way around? Was it cost? They ran out? Okay. Now we've got to figure out what's that. I'm going to go to the other side. I'm just going to tap easy. And look what's coming out the bottom there. I'm going to stop right there before I bury that. It started getting tight on me, but I've got a feeling that that pin is almost ready to come out. So it's loose on the shaft. There we go. I find that there are no set screws, pins, anything attaching this, with the exception of a slot, and there's a key on that. So that tells me this shaft and this block float independently of each other in this bore. And I need to take this stuff here away. What I'm hoping I can do is, and I don't think I can because it's kind of long. This is that shaft. You can see where it's got a keyway set. I see. Now this is the end that goes down and comes out here. It's got a radius on it, and there's an O-ring right there that we can get to. We'll change. There's a hole right here for a pin, and there's another hole out here on the end for a pin. So this is the part that actually sticks out of the head and throws out the gear when it hits its stop. This piece, it's got a pin, and it's also got an Allen set screw. So, and there's a spring right there. Huh. Now, when I was turning this, I could feel a lot of tension. Spring bound. Where's my stuff? Let's see here. When I was turning this shaft up and down, I don't look in there. Yeah. This spring right here is sitting on this post, and that's what gives it the tension, and it also is what makes it a positive movement. When this moves up and hits it, that spring, it just doesn't lay there. It just has positive movement. So we need to take that spring off that post. Don't kill ourselves. Now, as I was saying, there's a spring right there that attaches to a yoke on this shaft, and that's what provides positive movement. If you didn't have positive movement, see how that kicks back into that latch? That spring makes that happen. So I'm going to see if I can reach in there and disconnect that spring before it hits me in the face. Let's see. There we go. Now I'm going to leave the back side attached. This piece is a spring pin. Then there's another set screw. I'm not sure why they would feel the need to do both, you know, one or the other. Too big. When I got the machine, all the oil had leaked out of here. I'll pull that all the way out and put it in the magnetic tray. So now I have 2 pins, one here and one through there. And I may end up having to take this section off. I think there's a spring right in there, a big flat spring. I might as well try to remove that now. What I'm doing now is I think I'm going to remove this part so I can get easier access to that shaft. Well, these old machines, they came from a simpler time, when, you know, we didn't have the technology we did then, but we sure had some mechanical know-how. I mean, this is just amazing. Like, I just removed these 2 screws right here. I don't know if you can see them. I don't know if there's any way to see what else I'm seeing. As I'm looking here under the paint, I see 2 dimples, one on either side. Right in here. I'll show you when I get it off. That dadgum thing is pinned. That little housing is pinned. And then it has 2 socket head cap screws countersunk in there. Heck, they don't do that today. They just put the cap screws on it and say that's good enough. All right, where else are we touching? Why are you not coming off of there, senor? It's not coming off. Because it's probably attached to that quill block right there. All right. I've rounded up the tools we need to sneak in behind this shaft and get those socket head cap screws out of the way. The only problem is my ball driver just won't quite get in there enough to do anything with that hard screw. So in the world of tool repair, sometimes a tool must sacrifice itself for the greater good. Now, let's see if we can get into this one too. If we get this in there, now you can't come all the way out with something like that because you just run out of room. That's where these ball drivers come in handy. Ah, this is a bunch of crap. I tried to use this thing, this little handle for it. It's a great idea. It sucks. With this little ball on the end of this Allen key, doesn't suck. That's a great idea. Been around for quite a while, but should make your life easier in these cases. Not much else you could do to get that screw out of there. Okay, those two are loose. So that should be loose enough to make some headway here. Noise you said heard was the oil bucket. I'm gonna move it out of my way before. Just clean up on aisle 43. Now, sometimes you just have to have a little bit extra. Like that, see? Now we're getting somewhere. And we can take that on out. See, there's no reason for that pin to be 4 miles longer than the other. But that's one of the things you find when you get into these things. And what I thought was a gasket, because I mean, it looks like a gasket from that side, is actually a shim. To shim this into proper spacing. So you don't want to lose that. We'll put that back in there. Like I said, I knew there wasn't any oil up there because the bearings are sealed in this machine. All right. Now we have access to pull this off. And the first thing we need to do is take this pin out. What I suspect right now, I don't know if you can see, right in here there's a pin, and it pins this lever to this shaft. This is a spacer and this is the fork. What I think will happen is I don't need to take this off. I need to undo that pin, which I could drive down and out, and then I will be able to put it back in from up here. It's on that angle. I can drive it in. And they may use that set screw just to line everything so you can get your pins in easy. I don't know. That'd help y'all see better. That'd help me. Ta-da! That thing's bent, but it's out. And if everything goes correctly, I should be able to press this out this way. There's a key starting to emerge, and let's see if this one will fit. Yeah. Guys, I use brass for stuff like that. The reason I do is because deep inside this hand right here are 7 pieces of shrapnel from capping a bearing race in about 45 years ago. Even though the doctor could see them plain as day on the x-ray, they're still in there. He couldn't find them. He operated. I sat there going like this, being a tough guy, you know. He said, "Would you like to lay down?" And I said, "Yes, please." Anyway, brass is soft. I don't know if they hardened that shaft, but there's a good possibility they did. And if I were to strike it with a hardened face like on a hammer, I could chip something off. I could break something. And no matter what I did, it wouldn't be great. So this is a better way of doing so. Now, still all loose in here. That's the hole that used to be over here. I just need to go ahead and finish pulling it out of here. And I don't think I can pull it, so I'm going to have to continue on with something soft. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I hardly ever throw away anything aluminum. What I do throw away, Don usually digs it out of the trash and takes it to his place. Well, there went parts of it. Luckily, I could see what happened. Keyway fell out, but I see it. Another benefit of sweeping the floor every 4 years, whether you need to or not. Let's see what we got going here now. Just cleared the fork. In a second, that should slip out. There we go, one fork. Now we're going to completely remove the shaft. I said now we're going to completely remove the shaft. And this goes just like that. Just like that, sports fans. Now I can get this pin all the way out too. The pin goes towards the bottom. Lose that spring. Having a hard time going past that O-ring right there. So I'm going to remove that O-ring because it's going up against another O-ring in the little brass boss they have here. Sorry I can't let you in here. It's a secret method. I told you I'd have to kill you. There we go. Okay, that is O-ring number 1. Like I say, it wasn't leaking in here. But we're trying to get into the one that was. Ta-da! That looks pretty nice. All right, no galling or anything on it. And I got the spring. It decided to fall out again, so I'll just put it down there. Okay. We are where we need to be. Let's see if I can let you see this. That's the little O-ring I'm working on getting out right there. number 2. Now, 1 and number 2 are 2 different sizes from each other, so it's pretty hard to get them confused. Okay, we're at a point now where I need to clean these faces up, and I'm going to do a little cleaning around here using a Scotch-Brite pad. Well, I'm back. Now we're going to take out, if you can see here, there's a little oil line right here. Now, I'll also feel it up here. Well, right behind this is a O-ring. And I'm pretty sure that's where it's leaking. Now, I'm working over here on this side now. We replaced, this is the shaft for the lever for up and down. We've replaced all of the O-rings on that so far. We put the cover on the front, and in about 30 minutes, you guys remind me to torque that down a little bit. But now we have an oil leak under here, and this was the worst one. This selector knob goes for the amount of inches per spindle revolution. It's 0.003, 0.06, 0.0015. So we need to take this off and replace the O-rings in it. Luckily, almost everything in this head is an O-ring, with the exception of the shaft that goes all the way through into the spindle, and that's a ring sort of like on an axle seal on a car. It's got a metal race, a spring, and a rubber goes around the shaft. Okay. I've already removed the oil from it, remember? So we're not going to be rich with that amount of oil. Now, this is where it gets tricky. This plate needs to come off. And frankly, I think this plate here can stay in position because I think it goes around this. But I don't want to beat it up trying to pull it off. Let me look at something. It does come off that way. And what I'm going to use is a thin bladed screwdriver. I just tried it out on the old piece over there. And it started coming off without any problems. Came off a lot easier than that one did. We are getting separation. Could use a chisel, but they've got a bevel on it, whereas a screwdriver's got a long taper. And I don't think it will mess up this little plate. I think it's the least destructive way of getting this off. Put it that way. Once you get it pulled off, you're not going to see anything in there. If you just keep working around the outside, any scratches or anything will be hidden. and work your way around it because it's a tight fit into that bore. Ta-da! That's the back of it. And you can see inside the gear housing. Well, if I could hold the camera, you could see inside the gear housing. All right.